Hi guys, welcome back to Charlotte's Foliage. If you're new here, welcome. If you're revisiting, I'm glad you came back, and let's get right into the video discussion that we're having today, and that's going to be about taking cuttings. Taking cuttings just simply means cutting above the node on the stem, and this way you can make more plant babies. It also, if you were to lose a plant, then because you have cuttings, it's not a full loss because you have the cuttings and you can regrow the plant. Sometime if a plant is in distress and you want to not lose it and let it rot the whole stem, you'll take cuttings from the stem, and then what they'll do, those cuttings will eventually root depending on what type of substrate you have them in. Some of them will root and some of them won't. Sometimes all of them will root. But this way, if you have a favorite plant and you don't want to lose the plant, you'll have your cuttings, and so you'll be able to regrow the plant. Another thing that cutting does on a plant is it promotes growth. If you have a plant that's already doing fine, but it's like growing a little bit too wild for you or too big for you, you can cut that plant and make plant babies. And if you have a store like I do on Etsy, you can sell those cuttings after they're rooted, or some people just buy cuttings themselves and they like to root them themselves. You could do that with your plant. So that's what we're going to be demonstrating today. And basically the different substrates that you can grow your plants in, or your cuttings. We're going to be using flugel, and we're going to be using sphagnum moss, and we're going to be using perlite. So we're going to be demonstrating that today. I already have some of the substrates ready here, so let's just get started. The first plant that I'm going to be cutting from the stem is my Mommii. This plant started giving me yellow leaves, and it started dropping leaves. So I took and cut the biggest part of the plant, and it's doing fine now. But the part that I didn't cut that still had leaves dropping, that's the part we're going to cut the stem, and then that way we can grow some more plant babies with what's left with the stem. Okay, so that's what we're going to do first. You can have more than one cutting of the same plant in different substrates just to see how they do. Sometimes people compare them to see which one will grow the fastest. So we can do that today here. I could demonstrate that to you and get back to you on how the plant is doing. So all I'm doing is taking this cutted plant, I'm taking the stem out of the plant so we can cut up the stem, okay? So I'm going to show you the stem. Here it is. This is the stem, and it still has roots on it, okay? So, but it has some rotting on the stem where the plant's not doing so good. So that's another reason why you would cut your plant, just so you could get, you cut your stem so you can get new plants. So right here is what we call a node, okay? Basically, you have the stem, and then the little bumps on the stem are called nodes, and that's where you get your roots from. Once it starts growing roots, then you start getting plants. So we're going to cut right here above the node. I'll just show you that. Make sure your scissors are clean. That's one cutting. Here's another node right here. We can cut right there. All right. This is a plant. This is an auxiliary bud here. And it's still a node there, so we can cut above that node and still get a plant. So right now, already, we have 3 cuttings. And these cuttings are nice, good cuttings because they're firm. They're not mushy, black, or soft. So that lets you know you have a good cutting, okay? Now, what you can do, Like this one is kind of long. So what you could do, you could get you some sphagnum moss. I'm going to demonstrate it here. And you can lay this cutting in some moist moss. And if you like, you can cover it. And that area where the node is will push out new growth. And you'll have a new plant. Now, if you want to, and keep them all together so you won't forget which plant is what, you could put more than one cutting in here. It still will grow. See? We're going to just put all 3 of them in here, and I'll demonstrate that right there. So you've had your first cutting. Now, what you want to do, because it's easy to forget until a leaf forms on what kind of plant that was that we took that stem cutting from. So what you would do is you would label it. I've got some labels here, or you could use some tape to label it. I actually have a label maker. So yeah, I'm just going to stick a little note on here. I'm sorry guys, I'm not prepared. I needed a pen. Here's one. Okay, so I'm going to write on here and stick this inside that cutting container. I'm going to put Mommy Eye. And sometimes you can put the date on there just to see how long it took for that plant to root. Okay? So, I believe today's the 22nd. So, this is a Mommy Eye, and it was planted on the 22nd. And I know that because I have a label here. Now, we can take that same stem, because we got a lot, and we can put it in a totally different substrate. We're going to cut above the node. And you're going to do the same thing, cut above the node. And that's all I'm doing is going down the stem where it's still good. And then we can put this inside another substrate. And I'll show you that here. You want to make sure you water your substrate. This is flugel and perlite. So I'm just sticking these cuttings inside there. Okay. And then I'm going to wet it a little bit, like so. Give it a little wetness. And if you have a lid that keeps the humidity in, use your lid. These were some old dressing containers from Panera. And now we have our Mommy Eye cuttings already together, okay? Now, I noticed that this stem is still firm, but it still looks rough. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut some more. I'm going to cut off some of these roots because we don't need all these roots. We can leave some, but we don't need all of them. And if they're rotten, you don't need them at all. We don't need any rotted roots. I'm going to rinse this off, and then we're going to put this, because it's bigger, in a bigger container, okay? And I think since we're trying to see exactly how fast this plant will take off, I think we should put this one in a different substrate, like perlite, for example. Okay, so I have some containers here, and I'm going to get some perlite, and we're going to put the last cutting in perlite, okay? So I'll show you that here. I'm going to get some perlite. This container has a hole in it, so it might fall out a little bit. I got to put a little sticker or something at the bottom so that we don't lose the substrate. I'm putting some perlite mixed in with a little bit of soil, a little bit of leca. And then I'm going to take this cutting, our larger cutting, and I'm going to place it in here like so. And put some more substrate in there. And then if I want to, I can take some cellophane wrap and I can cover it, or I can simply leave it the way it is. It still will root. Okay? So there it is. That's our biggest cutting. Because all these are the same plant, I'm going to keep them together, okay? And I still need to label 2 of those containers. All right? So now we've cut up the stem with propagation in leca, perlite, and we've put it in frugal, and we put it in sphagnum moss. So now all we have to do is just wait and see. I'm going to show you what part of the stem was rotten. See that right there? See how dark that is? That part of the stem was rotten. The whole stem is not bad, but just where the area where the roots are at, that area was bad. So you don't want that. You want to cut that off. You want to rinse it off. And you can rinse it in alcohol. And another thing I did not do, and I should have, is put some root stimulator on here. So I'll show you guys that. We'll use that for this cutting here. Okay? Give me just a second to get the root stimulator. Today we're using rooting hormone. And here's this. I think I got this from a local drugstore, like the big box store, like Home Depot. You can dip your stem in that rooting hormone, like so. See? And you put it on there. I'm trying to get it to come to the end so you guys can see it. There you go. See that rooting hormone on there? And then you can get you some substrate here. And you can put that cutting in that substrate and that plant will grow. Okay? So I'll show you that. There it is. Okay? So now we have cut up a mommy eye plant. Now, I have another plant that's growing so tall that I really need to move it, cut it down some. And so we're going to do that. And I'm going to see if there's a plant that I need to take a cutting for my store. So, give me just a moment. I'm going to rinse off my scissors. All right, so this is another plant. This plant grows like crazy. This is a Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, and right now I have the mother plant that's growing over the moss pole that I have it attached to. So what we're going to demonstrate with this cutting, and I'll show you where the node is. It's right there where it's bumpy at on the stem. We're going to just propagate this in water, so you can get an idea of all the different ways that you can propagate. So what we're going to do, we're going to dip this in the hormone, rooting hormone, to give it a better chance at rooting. And I'll show you that there. Then we're going to stick this in a little cute container that I have. This little container here. I'm going to stick this in here, and I'm going to put some water in here. And I'm going to put this in my little greenhouse. It doesn't have to go in a greenhouse. It can go in a window. But I'm going to stick it in the greenhouse because it's easier for me to see and not forget about it. Okay? And I'll show you that here in just a minute. I'm just squeezing a little water in there. Help the plant out. All right, the whole leaves don't need to go in there, just that. I have another one here that's a cutting that's already rooting. She's giving me some roots already. And this is a Florida, let me see, global green pothos, okay? All right. So we've demonstrated 2 plants that we took from the mother plant and we cut them up into baby plants so that they can root and give us new plant babies, okay? And so that gives you an idea of why cuttings can be very important. And we're going to do one more plant and one more substrate. I'm going to show you a different type of substrate you can put your plant in. So let me go find one more plant that we're going to cut on. I'm rinsing my scissors off after every cutting. At least I'm trying to. Okay. Cut from that plant before. I love cutting this plant. Alright, so let me see. Here's another there. Okay, this is another cutting. It's a beautiful plant. It's called a micans, philodendron micans. And so what we're going to do is, I actually can cut it again because there's a node right here. Instead of losing this leaf by sticking this down in water or whatever substrate, I can cut above the node and then I can still propagate that node and this node here. Let me show you. I can cut this because there's 3 nodes. So this could be 3 plants or just 3 cuttings to make a bigger plant, okay? But we're propagating these, okay? So we did sphagnum moss. We did perlite and we did flugel. We're going to do just soil, okay? Just soil. And we're going to propagate with just soil. So I'm going to need a small container. Let's see. What do I have that's small here? I'm looking, you guys. Trying to find a little small container that we can put these cuttings in. All right. So, let's see. I got a little bitty tin can here, which is not ideal, but we're going to see if it'll work. I'm going to put some little bit of root stimulator in there on each little stem, each little end of the cutting. And then I'm going to put some soil in here. And then I'm going to stick the cuttings in this soil mix. I don't know if this dish may not be deep enough. I know what I'm going to do. I figured out I'll use this. Okay. I found a deeper dish I already had here. So we're going to put that cutting in there. And that cutting in there. And then this cutting, I'm kind of pack it down a little bit so that it stays in there. And we don't have to wet this one because this soil is already wet. This is the soil that the mommy eye was in. I'm putting a little bit more dressing on top of it. Then I'm going to show you guys what I did. Okay. So here it is. That's one leaf, and there's two right there, and it's in all soil. So that is our demonstration today on cutting from big plants, and so we can make baby plants and have bigger plants eventually. Okay, so I just wanted to get in here and show you guys how to take a cutting. So if you have a favorite plant and it may not be doing well, go ahead and take a cutting. Get you some root stimulator or some cinnamon and put on the tip of the stem and get to planting. Thanks again for stopping by my channel. I hope you come back and hit that notification button and that subscribe button so that every time I post a video, you'll be able to know when it's going up. Thanks again. Bye now.